Yep, that's what we were doing. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I don't think we should wait anymore.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hang on, I need to turn my volume up. All right, let's go ahead and start. Or have you guys already started?
No, we have not.
And I see we have a new member of the committee. Sorry, I digress.
Yep. Last minute childcare needs.
I understand. All right, so let's go ahead and start in. If somebody will note attendance.
I've noted it.
Have I got both my council members here? Do we have Ethan by chance, or do we know?
Yeah, I'm
Ethan's here.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead. In that case, we'll entertain public comments. Are there any members of the public or anybody else for that matter wishing to make comment before the committee before we proceed on with things? Please go ahead and raise your hand in Zoom or let me know in the council chambers. Seeing none, we'll proceed on with the approval of minutes of May 3rd. I have no revisions. Do any other council members or any of the staff have other revisions proposed? All right, if no revisions are taken, minutes are accepted as submitted. Thank you. Oop. Hang on a second. There we go. All right, so let's move to Agenda Bill 2284, resolution granting an exemption from construction activity noise restrictions for the traffic signal recoding project.
I believe Andrew's online is going to speak to this one.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. This is a request for noise exemption for recoding signal poles located on the Snoqualmie Parkway at the Swenson Avenue cross street. We have a contractor lined up to recoat those poles. Based on an inspection, they determined that the existing coatings have failed pretty badly, and a lot of prep work needs to be done before recoating them. The scope of work is scheduled to occur in the month of July or August. It'll happen at night, which is why there is the requirement for the noise exemption. This, just to clarify, this agenda bill is only requesting the noise exemption. The contractor has already been selected through the small works bidding process.
So why isn't this work done during the normal outage windows?
Yeah, so we worked with a engineer to prepare the bid package, but the prep work includes blasting of the old paint coating, which could be impactful to drivers, residents as well, pedestrians. By doing it at night, there'll be less impact. The traffic control, which will include a lane merge and a four-way stop at that intersection, will be much less impactful to drivers and also reduce the overall cost.
But you're gonna basically sand, either you'll abrasively treat these poles during this time period?
Correct.
Assume this is not a non-noisy activity?
I would expect generators and power wash type equipment.
Okay, at least on two corners, maybe one corner of that intersection is pretty close residential?
There is a apartment facility, I think northeast. Yeah, that map doesn't show it, but yeah, it would be northeast of the intersection. And those residents would be notified ahead of time. So 2 weeks ahead of the project.
I have a question on that, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's great that the folks would be notified about this. Have they been notified about this vote or this being brought to council? Because if we notify them, hey, we decided to do this, just to let you know, your baby's not gonna be able to sleep for these 15 days. I can see, I mean, there's a big housing development right next to, right on that intersection. There are people living, 50 feet away from that intersection in their homes. And I think I would have felt better if I knew that they all knew that we were talking about this tonight. Thoughts?
I would add that this isn't the preferred approach. We did look at two other alternatives in the planning of this. We looked at taking the poles down, recoding them off-site, also purchasing new poles. Both of those were substantially more expensive and not readily available. I do see that there's potential impacts of working at night in the right of way here. That was one of the challenges of this project.
It sounds to me like we're prioritizing the needs of drivers over the needs of people who live right there. I would love to hear the reasoning behind that, because and I mean that genuinely. I would like to hear the reasoning behind that. Because I'm not saying that that's unreasonable. I am saying that if I had a baby and I was living 100 feet away, I would feel like doing this at night was unreasonable. So I would love to, I would love to hear where the math comes in, where we make those kinds of decisions, because I mean, it's a judgment call, I assume, but anyway, I'm sorry, other people have their hands up, mine's down.
All right, Director Chambliss, I'll get back to you, Joe. Hang on.
Sure. One obvious difference between working at night and during the day would be the commercial truck traffic would be much reduced. The majority of that traffic is during the day. The gravel hauling, the log hauling, that's not happening at night. So in addition to reducing the impacts on drivers, it also makes it safer for the workers that are actually doing the work.
That's an important, yeah.
Joe, you have a question?
Yeah, so with my kid, he's here all day as well. This little one happens to not quite be in daycare quite yet. So families could be impacted during the day just as much as at night with their kids trying to take naps and such. So, but I'm not necessarily disagreeing with my fellow council member. I would like to know from those residents what their thoughts are on it before moving forward. What would be their preference with regard to the sleep schedule? And not just for kids. I'd imagine that pets also could get pretty agitated. But at any rate, so I wonder my understanding is that in our committees, we do not actually take the action. So like we would not be voting on this as a 3-member body and that be it. Rather, we advance things to council. So I wonder if there could be advance warning given to the residents, especially in the apartment complex, of when the council meeting would be that we'd be discussing this, such that they would have the opportunity to speak up at that point, since they're obviously not, they were not directly notified of this particular meeting.
So caveat to that, agree the committee does not make decision, but it does make recommendation to the council, and actions can be taken if they are basically by consensus of the committee and administration that, you know, move this forward, take that back. Okay, so we have had activities just partially up, I gotta get my bearings straight, partially down the hill from here that we did at time before, and got significant feedback for some work inside the streets. So guys, my view of the sanding and stuff is going to be very, very loud, and I do not propose moving this forward. This moves forward. I do not propose having it move forward with a recommendation to approve. There are ways to manage the traffic flow and do this during the day without having residents, unless somebody advised me that this grinding and preparation is of low noise impact. I don't see the logic.
There is, I may add to the schedule restraints on the project. The coating needs to be done during specific weather conditions. So low humidity, high temperature. So that's why it would be scheduled during July and August. With that said, there is a lot of summer events that traffic will be impacted. We will be doing some detours through there. As Mike mentioned, there is some concerns for both safety of the workers, but also pedestrians at that intersection. So the traffic control may be more challenging to complete this during the day. And it may be something where we would then be looking at purchasing new poles or painting them off-site again.
Right, but well, let me before I speak. Catherine, you had your hand up.
I do. Can you hear me?
Yep.
So I know when you were talking about 202 when they did the 202 through downtown last year, whatever, they came up with different types of hours and things like that they set. And do you know how late it went? Anyone that worked on that project? It didn't seem like it was till 7 a.m. in the morning. Do you recall? Brian, you were on there. Comes from Alloway. You were on that.
I don't remember that particular project. I can tell you that this agenda bill has no restrictions in it as such.
Right, but you guys negotiated the restrictions and other things. Remember, I think you and Councilor Sunwall did that. So I'm wondering if, the sandblasting goes from, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. or something like that. And then I don't know what they can do later in the evening, working on the things that are not as loud.
Right. I don't, we have a noise ordinance, which pretty well says, be nice after 10 p.m. I see no reason to waive that for this, particularly due to its close proximity to residential dwellings.
Right, and I'm sure we know what the traffic is throughout the day, and so I'm sure there's like certain portions of time that there's not as much traffic. If you're hitting it early in the morning and you're hitting it, 4 to 6 p.m., we know there's gonna be a lot of traffic, and that would not be a good time for anyone to be working in that area. But maybe there's some different times to take a look at, and maybe even starting up at, I guess it goes till 7 a.m. So 5 to 7 a.m. for instance, and then 7 to 10 p.m. But I don't know, since there's probably a lot of setup that has to happen for the sandblasters as well. So I think just negotiating.
So does administration want to pull this back at this stage and go back and see if there are some opportunities for time windows?
If you will, let us have another shot at it.
Can after Joe speaks, I'd like to say one other thing if I could.
Joe, you got your hand up?
I think that if administration takes another look at it, I will hold on to my question.
And all I was gonna say is that, I'm not making any judgment here as to the plan. This may be absolutely the best possible plan. So, my question is not about changing the plan. It's just that this seems to be an opportunity for us to allow our citizens who are mostly diurnal to speak to the plans if they have something to say. It may be that, if it's gonna cost an extra 20 grand to do it some way, as a council, we may come to the conclusion that, well, it stinks that some people are gonna get a bad night's sleep, but as a city, we have to put that ahead. So I'm not saying that this is not the right plan. I just think that we're missing an opportunity to allow people to speak to it.
Joe, you got your hand back up?
Yeah, actually, should the administration come back to us with an updated proposal, perhaps looking more specifically at certain times they can narrow it down to, et cetera. I might be interested in seeing what the financial impact would be of the various alternative ideas. Because I'm feeling a little bit uninformed at the moment as to just how much is the significant difference between costs of the various alternatives, like taking them off site and all that. I mean, is it 10 times more expensive? Is it twice as expensive? I don't really have a gauge of that at the moment.
So, but wait, let's back up because I don't want to open this door. This was bid and was quoted knowing with the backdrop of our current ordinances and restrictions. So this action was to lessen that. If anything, we should have got a price discount with this action versus a cost upper if we maintain you're going to do it per existing law. Okay, so you'll be hard pressed to have me entertain an upper for it to comply with our current codes and ordinances. Okay, but I believe the consensus is we'll bring this, administration will take this back, have the negotiations, and we'll bring it back to committee at a future date. Any objections?
Do we need a motion on that or?
Nope,
Okay.
just comes off the table. Technically, Ethan, you're right. There should be a motion to postpone to a date certain, but committees are a little more informal.
Right on. I would like.
Good catch.
I would like to make sure that whatever plan we have involves informing the people, at least of the gosh darn it, I can't remember the name of the development there, who are going to be most impacted by that. To speak to it. The Woodlands, yeah. I would, whatever plan we come up with, I would hope that we're going to inform the people who live there and allow them the opportunity to speak to it.
Well, and if I forget, nudge me next Monday, because I'll be doing an all weekend event. Nudge me next Monday. Let's at least in the next council mention that we had this conversation. So there's some visibility in public that if they catch it and they want to come talk, they can come talk. So hang on, Andrew, your boss had her hand up first. Catherine, Mayor Ross?
We'll let Andrew go first.
Okay. Oh, you're on mute, Andrew. There you go.
I appreciate that feedback. We can work with our contractor. I think we do have a good contractor, experienced contractor lined up for this work, who can give us some good feedback. I do want to mention the other potential impacts of this project, it is coating these poles in the right of way, has noise impacts. There's also some of the traffic impacts beyond just the Parkway. So in order to complete this, we were looking at detour routes for residents living off of Swenson Avenue. So they would be taking, there's a pretty significant community back there who would be accessing the Parkway off of Jacobia. We'll look at see if there's some alternatives to that, but in our original design, we did not see that. So I just want to outline both the noise and the traffic impacts there.
Mayor Ross?
So the concern is pushing it out further if we lose some good weather time. So when does this need to, I guess it's 15 days. And so when were you hoping that this would start?
Yeah, I can speak to that. The deadline for the project to be completed is prior to school. There is a school on the northwest corner of the intersection. So I believe the deadline is it's the last week of August. They had about 3 weeks to complete the work. So they would want to really begin no later than the first week of August. There may be a little bit of wiggle room, but getting materials such as paint, it will be tight.
We need to keep in mind the voting class also, so we probably won't start in July. But remember, this only needs to come back if we're going to request a modification. Otherwise, we can proceed with the contract. So all that work is done. So if we don't need to change the sound rules and we can work within that window 7 to 10, we have everything we need, and we actually don't need to bring anything back. So let us talk to the contractor and circle back around. We'll keep you in the loop, but yeah.
Thank you, Director Chambliss. All right, with that, if we can go back to agenda on the display.
Possible to shrink that down a little bit.
Not too much more. Agenda Bill 22086, sewer participation agreement between City of Snoqualmie, Matthew and Shelby Oland regarding King County tax parcel, yada yada. Who can cue this one up?
Jeff's going to speak to this one.
Hello. So this is a simple sewer agreement with a person in our community within our service area who would like to connect to the sewer. This is as the summary statement says. And it's a good deal for the city. $9,000 in GSPs plus a customer. And it also takes another drain field offline, which is near to Kimball Creek. So it's all good. And this is our standard routine for getting this approved.
Okay. Any discussions, committee?
Which property is that? Is it pictured in there?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
What property are we looking at?
Oh, it's a property off 384th. I'm not sure that that's even it. I don't know where that is.
Okay.
Well, and it's good. So be aware, some of the property in county there are still on septic systems.
Yep.
And you kind of see a load on Kimball Creek there as a result of some material or at least some nutrients getting into the creek there from septic systems. This is actually a good thing to get them onto city septic, city wastewater. That'll reduce that load and help Kimball Creek, which has had quite the bloom at times.
That's correct.
And this is all per our GFC connections and everything else. So this will add into that stream also. So unless there are further discussion and objections, my proposal is we do this as part of consent. This is a normal agreement we go through. Good thing to do. Any objections to that? All right, let's proceed forward with it as part of the consent agenda. Thank you. Let's go next item. Agenda Bill 20, public hearing and resolution number 116, adopting a 6-year transportation improvement program. Is this for discussion or adoption? Agenda bill has it as part of it. The agenda has it a discussion. The agenda bill action says adoption. And so who can talk this and what are we doing tonight? Andrew, you got your hand up? Oh, you're still on mute, Andrew. That mute button.
To clarify, this is for discussion. It'll be if there's any changes you would like or feedback you have, you can chew on it for 2 weeks, and then it'll be brought back to committee in 2 weeks, and it'll be adopted at the end of June and submitted to WashDOT on June 30th. So this is just for discussion tonight.
Be thankful we're not in council committee because I'd hug you. All right, committee, any discussion further to that? And part of the reason why I say that for committee and for others is I do view the STIP as an action of this committee. So we should take the opportunity to review that. And in the past, you often get from staff the technical ranking here. There is an aspect of a political ranking. Matter of fact, even though not within our jurisdiction, at one stage we moved the I-90 Highway 18 interchange fairly high up on this list. If I were a purist, it doesn't belong on the list. It's not ours to mess with, but it does allow us to communicate to county and state. These are important things to us, even though they're not our responsibility to do. Okay. That is also why you see the 202 bridge on here. Again, that is the state's responsibility to do something on that bridge, but it is an important infrastructure item for us, as well as we have some of our stuff hung off of it that we'll need to coordinate with on that. Andrew, you got your hand back up. What did I say wrong?
Yeah, I wanted to, you've got the exhibit pulled up here. We have made updates since previous STIPs, working with the finance department. We've got new staff here working on it. And some of the projects you've mentioned, which are outside of city jurisdiction and aren't within the next, the 6-year CIP planning period, have not been included in the STIP. As they're either beyond that 6 years or outside of the city's jurisdiction. So there have been changes since the previous STIPs.
So at least you heard me spout off. I view that as kind of important and would like to have those brought back in. We can have that discussion. So is the intent in the next, give us to us today, we'll go back and look at it and come back with questions. And in the next committee meeting, have a more detailed conversation on the items.
That is the intent.
Okay.
we're working with our finance department and the policies that they're putting together as part of the CIP to try and make the STIP a little bit more in line with the CIP as it has been or has not been in previous years. So I'll be working with finance to make any changes, and I'll pass along that there's a request to bring in those previous projects.
Okay. Joe, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with Councilmember Holloway that it's important for us to have our transportation always be in the context of the rest of the region around us. We could build a giant freeway with 20 lanes through the middle of the city, and it's not going to matter because all the lanes are going to get chopped down to whatever is around us, right? So just my point being that, we could have the most fantastic transportation system in the world, but it's not going to matter because as soon as we get to our borders, things change. So what I did here, I just want to make sure that I heard specifically, just to see if there's anything else that I really thought should be on there. The widening of SR 18, these I-90 interchange. And was there anything else that you mentioned, Councilmember Holloway?
No, but at least one time,
Okay.
I believe we even had a park and ride on there.
I was going to suggest a park and ride. It's just on a wish list.
And like I said, if nothing, it's a political thing, if nothing else, expressing our perceived importance of those kind of things. Mr. Sturbank, you have your hand up?
I think the chair is correct, or you're correct on this issue, and for various reasons, and I'll work with staff on that, in terms of bringing those items back before you.
Okay, thank you. And so I guess as far as Joe, go ahead.
Thank you. The only other thing that I noticed, and maybe there's a reason for this, but anyway, there are a number of items that are labeled as transportation that are on the proposed non-utility CIP that are not on here. And I believe that everything that is in the green or in the yellow is in the STIP, but the red is not. And is that because those are a lower priority? Are those things that we don't think that we'll ever actually get to within the next 6 years? Just wondering what the reasoning was behind leaving those items off the STIP.
Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, so those were left off the STIP for either one of two reasons. One being they were outside of city jurisdiction. I think as long as it follows our policy, we can include those in the STIP. I spoke with the state program manager, and she said, another good way to advocate for such projects like that is directly to the state representatives, because it would be as part of the state STIP. But there's nothing that says we can't include it in our STIP. So that would be one reason they're not in the city jurisdiction. The second reason would be that they're not in the next 6-year schedule of the CIP.
I would suggest we do both and have it, if it's important to us, we have it on ours as well as we go talk to our representatives and make sure it's on the states.
Councilmember Holloway, I have a quick question
Yeah.
for Mr. Vining. How many of these items will be on display at the open house on Thursday? Are any of these included in that?
I mean, we'll have staff here prepared to talk about everything, but I didn't make a poster of every project, so there's none of these.
These are not that.
Those aren't any of the posters I made, but staff will be, the whole team will be here, so we can talk about anything.
Okay.
There is a map.
Councilmember Johnson, you have your hands up?
Yeah, just a very, very minor thing. I just want to mention that I just saw that in the red under the year of construction, it says 2029 and beyond. So that does track the idea that those are not active in the next 6 years. So thanks for pointing that out.
All right, cool. I think I think you're catching enthusiasm and having a discussion next committee meeting. So we're in alignment with that plan to go ahead and have that discussion and come out with a hopefully mutually agreed STIP. and work to a public discussion of that shortly thereafter that. So if that was the intent of the discussion, I think you have full support.
Thank you. Yeah, that gives good feedback.
Can I, I'm gonna take privilege as chair and sidetrack slightly though. While ago, we did approve sidewalk repair replacement. Considering somebody just recently talked to me about that piece of sidewalk that almost got rid of our last mayor. Do we have a schedule on the sidewalk replacement activity? Or repair activity?
Hi, this is Patrick Fry. I'm overseeing the sidewalk. Is this inappropriate?
Yep.
Sorry. Yeah, they're Nordvin, the contractor, is out and doing sidewalks all over town. As for the location on Fairway, right in front of the old mayor's house, I'm not sure when they're going to get to it, but they have a deadline to finish. I want to say mid-September, like September 10th or 11th. So it should be done before then.
Okay, and there was another resident brought forward an issue on a sidewalk. It sounded like there was some discussion of potentially changing the list as prior presented to this committee and maybe including other pieces of sidewalk that come into view.
So we have minor change money in there. And so there have been a few additions just due to, the list was created at the tail end of last year. And so over the winter, anything that popped up and then reported to us after it went out to bid. So some sites have been added. If you're referring to Cedar Street that was sent, I'm not actually sure where the latest iteration on that is. I think Andrew Vining is heading that.
Okay, I'm more than happy to overachieve. I'm concerned if we're going to underachieve of what was presented to committee before. Would like to have visibility before that occurs. So if there are items taken off that list as presented prior, would like to have that visibility.
Yeah, no items have been taken off the list.
Okay. Mayor Ross, you have your hands up?
I do. Just so you notice, the public hearing for the STIP is going to be the second council meeting of this month. So this means we're pushing this out to the next Public Works meeting, then the council will review it the same night that there's a public hearing. Because I think the deadline's early July for this.
I had one thing that I want to say. I have seen them out working on sidewalks and been really excited about that. And I think we should probably not refer to Mayor Larson as the old mayor, maybe more as an old mayor, as their.
How about former mayor?
No, I'm okay with old. I just, I just want to be careful about the article. Don't want to leave anybody out.
He's my backdoor neighbor. I may refer to him as the old mayor. We'll see. Point taken. Director Chambliss, you have your hands up?
Yes, to close out the sidewalk conversation, I assure you, we will over deliver. We will not under deliver. And then I believe that we've received enough feedback on the step that we can bring a document back at the next committee meeting that is going to meet everybody's needs.
Yeah. And we have in the past at times done public hearing and adoption in the same council meeting. So if we get forced into that, we can do that. With that, I think that concludes this public hearing and STIP conversation. Also have an item on here for CIP discussion.
Yes, sir. I have the new books, the complete books here. And I will be placing your books either in your mailbox, or if you want to email me an address, I can deliver to Porches. that's not an issue, but this was just to create an opportunity if anybody wanted to talk about the CIP. It was provided to you earlier, I think it was last week, and I know everybody's doing their homework. So if anybody wanted to have any preliminary discussions about anything or anything, I just was creating that opportunity to have that conversation.
I'm going to plead that I was down last week. So any other committee members have comment?
Well, I just found out that Mr. Chambliss did not make a poster for every project for the open house. So I'm just getting over that right now. So I can't really speak to this.
Worst case, I believe we have the project pages, that if a public person is particularly interested, we could refer to.
We did make 2 very large maps that show all the projects.
This is amazing. Can't believe you keep all this straight. That's incredible.
It's a team effort.
Cannot believe how much is involved in running a city.
Councilman Johnson?
Yeah, it's just a very simple observation about I assume that for us, we are looking mostly at the utility CIP. I'm glad to see that a lot of it's in green, meaning that we've got all the funds lined up. Assuming that the things that are sort of our ongoing programs and that sort of stuff is being paid by ongoing revenue sources, and that all those ducks are in a row. That's really good to see. Is there anything that staff is concerned about that's in the yellow or in the red, where we may be falling behind anywhere that could lead to problems down the road if we don't figure out how to fund those items?
Director Chambliss?
The one item that I had, we were able to incorporate. So at this time, no, there's nothing really on our radar that's falling by the side. We did get word about 2-3 hours ago that the first revisions are being made. So we'll have some addendums for you as soon as we get those out. And one of the big changes was the fact about the sewer agreement going in. So that secured some funding. So we need to have that roll through the projects. So that's coming your way. But no, at this time, there is no concerns that we're missing anything. We just love to have more so we could do more.
Okay, thank you. I believe we've covered the agenda at this stage.
That's correct.
All right. I will entertain a suggestion that we keep going, or we can adjourn at this stage.
I would like to move to adjourn.
Second.
Having a motion in a second and no objection from the third, unless there are other objections, we are adjourned. Thank you all this evening.
Hey, Brian,
Mayor Ross, you have your hand up?
I do. Can you stand for a little bit while everyone else?
Yeah.
Okay, have a good night.
Let's see.
Is it just him you want to chit chat with? Or do you want to chit chat with everybody?
With him about our fund. I guess we turn these off and I'll send my God.
Is the recording on?
Still on.